Hi, I'd like to talk to you today about the efficiency effect and why digital efficiency is the key to the success of your business. I'm Richard Godfrey. I'm the Managing Director of SynCity. We specialise in working with chief executives and senior managers to basically become more efficient in their use of digital technology. So we look at all kinds of businesses, processes, and all aspects, and look at how we can kind of automate or remove some of the excess waste from those processes. And a lot of that is things that we'll talk about this morning. So digital transformation. For me, digital transformation is very much similar to the caterpillar and the butterfly effect. So we have two animals there, one that transforms into the other, but actually they're unrecognizable between themselves. If I was to put a caterpillar and a butterfly down and you had never seen either before, I don't think anyone would actually guess that they were the same thing, the same animal, same creature. They're two completely almost independent creatures, two separate stages of life. And really, when we're talking about digital transformation, people are getting too involved in how they transform and not looking at how they just simplify things, simplify their processes, make them easier. If you say you're an accountant, at the end of the program, you're still going to be an accountant. You're not transforming. We just need to make you more efficient at the work that you do. Lots of digital transformation programs have come across kind of fatigue. We've had business transformation, we have digital transformation, and a lot of end users aren't really interested in the digital side of it. They really just want to be able to do their jobs, do them well, and not have lots of waste or complex activities that they need to undertake. So really, it kind of conjures up images of large-scale changes across organizations, not really looking at just small details of elements of processes or small details of teams. It is that wide-scale piece. And as I say, people are just getting a little bit tired of it. The transformation failure rates are massively high. You go on some websites, they're giving you numbers up to 95% failure on some of these programs of work. And that's really not good enough. It just means that people aren't actively engaged or involved. And actually, as they change, people change the definition of digital transformation. They start talking about it being about people, culture, and various other things. When it works, it's about the digital. When it doesn't work, it's because of people change and things like that. So really, we're going to kind of stop talking about digital transformation. We're going to focus on digital efficiency. And really, I'm going to try and give you a couple of examples of companies that are probably held up in quite high esteem of digital transformation, but realistically just became more efficient at what they did or delivered a more efficient service to their end users. So we're going to obviously look at Netflix and Uber. Lots of people will already know of these companies, what they're up to, what they do. Whether you like Uber or not is a different opinion, but actually we'll just go into the efficiencies that they bring, and likewise with Netflix. So before Uber, there were two kind of ways of getting yourself a taxi. One was to phone the taxi company up, book a taxi, and then basically sit and wait. So you might say, I'll be here at 7. Around 5 to 7, you start noticing cars going past. You start looking through the curtains. Around 7, 5 past 7, you phone up the taxi company. Where's my taxi? It's always just around the corner. It's never been any further away than just around the corner. But realistically, once you'd phoned that taxi company, you had no way of knowing where that taxi was or exactly when it was turning up. And likewise with hailing taxis in the street. You can go in the street, you might get lucky, there might be lots of taxis, they might all be free, you hail one quite quickly. But at the same time, the actual taxi driver itself doesn't know what that fare is. You might be going 100 meters, you might be going 20 miles. So again, it's kind of an inefficient way of picking up. And particularly if it's wet or raining, taxi usage goes up. It's a bit harder to find one. And it's not really an efficient kind of use of your time to stand in the street with one arm in the air. So Uber came along a number of years ago. It spread obviously globally. It's taken over quite a lot of the taxi kind of industry, although I don't believe they call themselves taxis. But really what you need to be thinking of, and I'll disappear myself just so you can see this a bit better, is what they actually delivered to you as a customer. So Uber give you an app. Within that app, you open it and you can say, I'm currently in this position here, and I would like to go to this position here or there. And that information and data is collected. It goes through the Uber app and gets distributed to a number of drivers within that vicinity. One of those drivers can pick up that data and say, I can see this person wants to go from here to here, and I'll earn this much money. I'll accept that ride. There's then a transfer of data back to that person who's effectively the buyer, saying, this person is going to come and pick you up. This is where they are now. This is how long it will be, and this is how much it will cost you. And so it just takes away that kind of that guesswork of standing behind the curtain, peering through, hoping that a car turns up. It takes away that whole thing of standing in the street, waving an arm around. And realistically, what they've done, as much as you want to interrogate Uber, is it's taken a set of data from you, the buyer. It's passed it through to a number of sellers. One of the sellers has accepted that and then passed that data back to you in a very kind of efficient manner. It's allowed you to see on the map exactly where they are. They can see the exact journey. And a bit like the black cab, the actual taxi, the Uber driver, can choose whether they take that fare or not. They know how long it's going to be before they take it. They know where it's going. They have those details. They know who they're picking up. You've obviously particularly got a star rating if you use them a lot, so you can turn down sort of bad rides. And then the key feature on the kind of the third image is that you can then obviously pay for it through the app as well. So one of the big things that you find with kind of more traditional taxi companies is that a vast majority of them don't take card payments. So you're left either before you get in the taxi having to find a cash point, going to withdraw an amount of money, generally withdrawing more than you want because you don't actually know how much the fare is going to be, and to make sure that you've got it. The other alternative is always to stop your taxi ride halfway through at a cash point, get out, get some money, get back in and carry on the journey. Uber effectively had just taken all of that, made it into a very efficient process, giving you a marketplace as their app where, again, you as a buyer can put some data in, a seller can see the marketplace, take that data, pass it back to you to say, yes, I'm going to be the person that takes you. So it's if you ignore the whole taxi element to it, the ride element of it, what you've effectively got is an efficient transfer of data between a buyer and a seller and back again, with kind of up to the minute real-time updates on that information, allowing you to make the most of your time before you get picked up, knowing exactly when you're going to get picked up and by who. So before Netflix came, we obviously all went to Blockbuster to collect our videos on a Saturday night. We'd go there, we'd have a browse, the latest movie would come out, they'd only have 20 in store, and all 20 would be gone by the time you got there, and you'd end up spending hours basically walking up and down aisles trying to find a movie that you and the family could agree on watching. You'd obviously then watch it. The following morning, one of you would have to get up and take that video back, post it through the door to make sure you didn't have any late fees. So it was an hour's activity before your Saturday night or Friday night even started to just go and pick that movie and then hope that they actually had the one in that you wanted to watch. Netflix, again, they started off almost fairly similar. They used to post DVDs out. Actually, in America, they still do in some areas, but it was a payment to have DVDs posted to you. So already they were looking at how that could be a bit more efficient. They could take away some of that element of having to drive to a store to not know whether the movie you wanted was already there or not. With then the kind of the advent of the internet and broadband speeds getting quicker, Netflix saw that as an opportunity effectively to stream that content to you instead of sending out a DVD. So again, don't think of the DVD as a DVD. Think of it as a data source. So the content on that DVD was the data. That was the key bit. What the internet allowed them to do was to be able to send that data via the internet directly to the end user, instead of having to post something out to them and wait for that DVD to be posted back. So not only did they become kind of more efficient as a company internally at how they delivered their service to you, it became more efficient for you as a customer as to how you picked that content from them. So there's no driving anywhere, there's no doing anything, there's no waiting for post to arrive, there was no sending DVDs back in the post. It was pretty much, as long as you've got a decent internet connection, you can turn it on, you can browse all the movies you want, and it doesn't matter how many other people are watching the same movie as you can still watch it. Now, key to some of these efficiency programs as well, excuse me, is the fact that you're actually using customers' own tools to deliver it. So Netflix wouldn't work if not everyone had an internet connection. So you're relying on the end user to have the internet to be able to take advantage of your service. Going back to Uber, you're relying effectively on people to have smartphones to be able to use their service. So they've flipped the service model on the head to much more of a self-serve model than you could have done previously. Excuse me. Now, there's obviously lots of examples of this that we could go through. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to give you a handful, we could start anywhere on this screen really, but let's go Tesco, and basically every supermarket now has a self-service checkout or a way of doing that, whether it's a self-scan or similar. You sign up to their points cards, you're transacting data with them constantly about what you're buying, when you shop, how often, how much you spend. They're using that data to effectively market to you through their point systems and various others. It also allows them to be more efficient in that they need less staff manning tools, and you to be more efficient that you don't always have to wait in line as long if you've only one or two items. All of the others, Booking.com, Airbnb, Deliveroo, Just Eat, all about transacting that data back and forth. Tide you may not have come across. That's a bank for businesses. It's actually the one I use, but very, very simple to set up, so much easier than any of the traditional banks. KFC and McDonald's, you now go in those, you're looking at touchscreen, you're selecting your food from a touchscreen menu, you're not having to go to someone at the desk. So again, efficiencies for them over having less people having to man the tills. And likewise, efficiencies for you in not having to stand in queues. You just go straight to the screen, order the food you want, and then you can take a seat and wait for it to be delivered. Ringo 2 removed the need for taking cash into car parks, having to find £3 in £1 coins before you go out, and just made that quite simple. And then the two big ones really are the airlines. So if you go back in time, you've probably gone into a travel agent, you've booked your holiday, you get a ticket sent to you in the post, you then went to the airport, you handed the ticket in with your passport, you got a boarding card printed, given to you, and off you went. EasyJet kind of came along and broke that mold, where you booked your flight online and your boarding card was sent to you. So you were sat at home and actually quite delighted to print your own tickets, your own boarding cards for those flights. And actually very few people moaned about that, but EasyJet had obviously managed to give you a service that made you want to go out and print your own tickets, use your own ink, your own paper, rather than them having to do it. So massive efficiencies for them. They've now gone one step further, both EasyJet and British Airways, and most airlines now, where actually it's just an app on your phone. You make the booking, you get the code, you add it to your phone, and it gives you a boarding card which you can hold in your Apple Wallet or Google Android wallets or anything like that. So it's just all about how they've not only made themselves more efficient, but they've made it more efficient for the customer too. And that's really where you're trying to get to with these efficiencies. So in all cases of this, they've basically got the customer to do nearly all of the work for themselves in in a way that's made them quite happy to be able to do it themselves, and in a way that they believe is more efficient for them. I mean, who'd have thought you'd go to a supermarket and be quite happy to do your own shopping, scan your own shopping, pack your own shopping, and go back? You don't really have to talk to anyone within these stores anymore. Oh, excuse me. EasyJet Airways, the same kind of model just keeps reiterating, and it's all about how they're collecting and moving data from you to them and back to them again, and the efficiencies that this has really given you. So Greg Wallace, if you want to see a man get very excited about processes, he's the man for you. So if you've ever watched Inside the Factory, and I recommend that you all do, and you want to see a man get very excited about soup going into a can from the bottom up rather than top down, then I suggest you watch the soup episode. But really what he's doing in this show is he's going basically through a factory from start to finish of their process. And when you start looking at it, you can just see how much time and effort and ingenuity has gone into each of those steps of the process. Large factories, it doesn't matter whether they're making Le Creuset pans are on there, biscuit companies, Cornish pasty companies, soups have been on, pasta companies. It doesn't matter what you're actually making. There's been loads and loads of work, time, effort, money, everything spent on making sure that process is efficient as possible. You wouldn't believe the journey a can of soup goes on from start to finish. It's miles of machines. But they've done that with a purpose. That is to become more efficient. It's to automate a lot of those tasks, remove a lot of the manual steps, improve quality, and make sure that rejections and things are at their lowest. Some of the machines that people have come up with are mind-blowing, kind of how good they are. And really what we're not doing from a digital perspective is spending that same amount of time, effort and money on our processes ourselves. We tend to overlook them. So we've bought an HR system, we've bought a finance system. Really, you need to be looking then at the processes within that. How are you going to make your staff more efficient? How are you going to transfer data from your sales team to your service team so that they're all working across the same information for each customer? You've really got to spend time and effort, as much as they do in these factories, looking at your processes, looking at what can be automated, what tasks you have that you don't need or don't require, where you've got additional steps, or where even you've got data leakage. So there's data that you collect, but only one team uses it. It's not passed on. It's quite common for the sales team and the service team to work from two different sets of data, where actually you need access to both of those sets, and for it to flow from almost your first contact all the way through to them to become that paying customer. And again, if you can think of these processes in today's world as processes that also mean the customer can serve themselves, then you'll be onto a winner with how efficient you can become as a company. So one of the issues that you do have and will come against, and I see it constantly, is the armchair experts. They're everywhere. And I think during this kind of COVID pandemic, the amount of people I've realized who are experts in virology and pandemics has gone through the roof. You only have to go on Twitter to see how many experts there truly are. And I know that if Karen at number 29 is worried about something and she tweets about it, then that's fact as far as I'm concerned. But it happens in every industry. Marketing, people constantly are talking about they're engaged to do a piece of work. They do the piece of work. They know what they're doing. It goes to the customer, and the customer says, I don't like that. I don't like that. That won't work. You should do it this way. As if they're then the expert in marketing. Digital and IT has the same issue. We go through it constantly. Once someone's used one system, suddenly it's the best system ever, and they're all experts in it. A really good example is CRMs, or customer relationship management tools. So effectively where you're holding that data about each of your customers, the amount of information. If you were to ask people which CRM they should use, everyone will just come back with the one that they currently use. Now, that's fine. It's good to get an opinion. It's good to get a wide range of kind of ideas. But ultimately, you need to know how you're going to use the system before you can look at them themselves. And again, we're going to go back to the data. So what data are you collecting? What do you want to do with that data? Where do you want it to go? And any other aspect. Do you want self-serve for customers? Do you want to automate tasks? And it's only really when you kind of work out the flow of the data, what you want to do with it and how you hold it, that you'll understand what system then is the best system for that. I quite often liken data to a nice wine. So the wine itself is the data. That's the key. It's not the wine bottle. It's not the glass it's served in. It's not whether it's served in a mug, a beaker, or anything like that. The wine will still be the same wine. It might be subtle differences depending on how it's served, but ultimately it's the wine that is the thing that you want to be drinking or absorbing. And within your business, it's the data that you want to be collecting and absorbing. So if you can look at the systems, the processes, even your software from the point of view of what data do you want to collect, how do you want to manage it, do you want to reuse it, do you want self-service, any of those things, you'll put yourself in a much better position than you would do if you were just looking at software or asking people's opinions of what software they use. So, as I mentioned, the key to being efficient really is thinking about it always from the data perspective. It's so overlooked when people talk about software and systems, especially when they talk about digital. We all talk about the key systems. We talk about Google and Microsoft and Teams and all these other systems, Zoom being the big one at the moment. But realistically, we're talking about data transfer. How are we getting data from one place to another? How's it being used? You've got internal data that you use. You've got external data like Netflix that are pushing information out constantly. Transferring of data like Uber, it's coming from the buyer through a marketplace, through the app, to the buyer, and then, to the seller. Got that the wrong way around. The seller to the marketplace to the buyer, and then the buyer pushing information back. So there's lots of opportunities for you to automate things within your business. And it doesn't have to be huge. You can think big and small. So where digital transformation's gone wrong is it's always like the big corporate wide program of work that's going on. But it might just be that you've got a small team of 3 or 4 people. You can still automate processes within that. You can still transfer data better, hold it better, use it better than what you're currently doing. So constantly be thinking about data. Think about what services you use as well. Do you use Netflix? Do you use Uber? Have you used Zoom? Which apps have you got on your phone? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? And really kind of use that information about how you can kind of tie that into your business as well. And ask friends, ask family, ask colleagues what they like, what they don't like. You'll get a wealth of information about it. And then another one, customers should self-serve and thank you for allowing it. So again, you're thinking about the airlines. Why should we print our own boarding cards on our own paper and our own ink, saving EasyJet all that money? It's because EasyJet becomes more efficient. They can lower the prices slightly. You're going to get benefit from that. So actually a few pence for printing, a few pence for ink, you're quite happy to do that. Tesco, you're quite happy to go in and you're happy to scan your own shopping. McDonald's, you're happy to go and use a big screen. Booking.com, you go in, you book your own holidays. Same with Airbnb, lots of things you can do. And self-service is going to be a huge aspect of you allowing yourself to become very, very digitally efficient. Now, that doesn't mean that all of the people I've mentioned have got it right. I know a number of airlines that actually their back office systems are still quite clunky. They're focused a lot on the customer. They've got the customer side quite good, but the back end is poor. I think the news has been reporting on some of the big IT failures of some of the big airlines that I've already mentioned as well. So again, you've got to think from it from both perspectives. Yes, serve your customers much better, but serve your staff and your internal systems just as well. and then you'll be in a better place for that. So thank you for listening. I hope that wasn't too painful for you all. It's not my favorite thing doing these webinar chats, but I think it's quite important to get some of this information out there. My details are all on screen, as you can see. I've got a personal website as well as the company one. There's my little mascot, the caterpillar on the motorbike, because it's not about transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly. It's just about becoming a faster caterpillar. And if you can think like that, then you'll be in a much better position. So as we say within the company, if you think different, be efficient, work together, and be a sinner. Thank you for listening.